My next guest is Kevin Riley. Kevin, you're the president and CEO of TranTech?
President of
TranTech. And you've been doing that how long?
A little over 15 years.
Okay. That's a long time in an industry to be doing what you're doing, but it's not a long time because you've got people 30, 40 years
Correct.
in this industry. But you are now one of the graying beards. You're one of the older generation. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But talk to me a little bit about, not TranTech, but talk to me about the industry, because you got to see a lot of transformers, you got to see a lot of applications, which means you also see a lot of problems.
Correct.
But for the last, say, 5 to 7 years, this industry has changed more than it did in 100 years beforehand.
Correct.
Why did we have to change, and where are we now, you think?
Well, we service both the OEM side of the business and the aftermarket side, directly to utilities, and they both, of course, now have the same issues with transformer lead times.
Right.
Because of the push for electrification throughout North America, and overseas as well. And what we've seen is with the lead times going out on the transformers to 2-3 years, some models up to 4 years.
Right.
There's a really big push to utilize spares and assets that are on hand. That creates an issue with some of the aging equipment. Let's take a good example, some of the old Westinghouse and McGraw Edison transformers.
I love them.
Oh yeah, we do too. Yeah. They've been spared and they're bringing them out of mothballs.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in a lot of times with, of course they're going to go through the bushings and the cooling systems and various apparatuses on the transformer. That's where we come in on the aftermarket side. We've seen a surge in that business over the last, really since probably just before the pandemic hit.
Right.
We've seen a surge on that side with these type of transformers being recommissioned back into systems. So the replacement of the cooling systems on those, a lot of times when they recommission those transformers, they're recommissioning them in areas where now they're seeing higher loads than historically they've seen before they were decommissioned. So that's where we come in to try to redesign cooling systems for these transformers and upgrade their cooling. Okay. Because as you know, for every 6 to 8 degrees C increase, in heat in a transformer, you're basically taking the life away through that DP process, a lot quicker. So what we're trying to do is design new systems for those mothballed transformers to decrease that temperature. We do see higher loads throughout, so we're getting a lot of calls on our engineering side as to how can you help us?
Yeah.
We're having to load this 20% higher than, it's historically seen. Now our temperatures, of course are climbing at that point. So we get a lot of calls on, can you redesign a cooling system for us? Can we reposition fans? Can we, put some type of auxiliary cooling on it? So we found that as an opportunity for TranTech to get into some new products, such as our mobile auxiliary cooling systems that we've introduced to help with those situations. And a lot of times they're using these transformers until they can get their new transformer that they've ordered, that's 3 years out, for delivery. So we found that as a need in the industry, and that was an opportunity for us to respond. Some of the other, things that we see, especially on the distribution transformer side, is, the manufacturers just can't keep up with the demand, from the end users, whether that be, IOUs or municipalities. A good example is ERMCO. ERMCO expanded, through the acquisition of Spire recently, and they're building transformers faster than probably any of our other customers at this point at unbelievable rates. So we have to invest in technology within our facility to support them in their growth. So that actually is has been a focus of TranTech for several years now. When we had customers, such as Ermco, or whether it be Hitachi or any of the OEMs saying we're going to increase capacity, we take that as a reality, and that's serious for us because we want to continue to be the supplier of choice, and we understand that the continuity of supply for them is huge, especially since the pandemic and all the supply shortages. The one thing that we're very proud of is we have set our supply base up where we have not had any shortages in our supply chain at TranTech, whether it be steel or whether it be castings or various things within, our plant that we use to manufacture. We had zero shortages during the pandemic.
Really?
That is correct.
That is, because you're in a marketplace where there's been a lot of shortages, a lot of upheaval, steels, metal, any kind of metal.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
What we found out is most of our suppliers of product we've been doing business with for, generally decades, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
That actually has a benefit. We may not pay the cheapest price, and we're definitely not the cheapest, on cooling products. However, the continuity of our supply is wonderful. No shortages during those times told us that was the right choice for us, is to stick with those suppliers, and they stuck with us through that.
Well, you've got an advantage right now because TranTech is a well-known brand, trusted brand in the marketplace. So based on your quality, based on your history and what you've done, so the OEMs know that. The retrofit market is heating up, and as you said, it's a retrofit of a spare coming into service, but it's also all of these transformers that, as you say, hey, we're operating at a different way than we have. We're overheating them at a different way, and they're the ones that there may not be a spare for that.
Correct.
And I got to keep it alive for 2 to 3 years until the next one comes. The retrofit market can be so time dependent. If you're, they say, hey, I can take it out of service for X amount of time, which means you've got to come in.
That is
Do you
correct.
have your own service team that comes in and does that?
We do. We don't actually do installation work for the product. Generally, that's going to be a Prolec or a NAS.
Okay.
But what we do is we'll send engineers to the field on that outage. We'll take the measurements needed so we can design a new cooling system, or whether it be just a replacement. It's funny that we talk about this. We just this morning, before this interview, we had one of our engineers leave this site and go to a local utility site to take measurements for a retrofit unit. It just
Very
popped
timely.
up. Correct.
Yeah.
It was great timing. But yes, we do send them out, and we work with the end user on what can be done differently to enhance their cooling. Because of course, even if they're pulling a spare out, they want to make sure that they can have the longest life out of that.
Right.
If they're going to make an investment in basically extending the life of that transformer, they want to make sure that it stays as cool as it can, because they're probably going to put that back in as a spare when the new transformer arrives. Because as we were talking about earlier, some of the old GE units, McGraw Edison, the Westinghouse units, they're great units.
I know.
What we find is things, start corroding on the units, or they may replace bushings, or they may replace control boxes or radiators and fans, but the units aren't hurt at all because they were manufactured so well, during that era. In fact, we're currently working on a couple of 300 MVA units for a customer that we will completely redesign the cooling system. But what we found is during our site visit, we want to, of course, to see the original heat runs. We want to see their latest DGA on it. Is those units are in great condition and they're decades old. So we'll retrofit that cooling system, and by design, it will be running about 8 degrees C cooler, which will probably give that transformer another 20 years of life,
Right.
in its current condition.
And given the fact that the transformers are already aged out from a financial standpoint, that is a huge benefit to people, not just because they can't get other transformers. It's just if you can keep an asset working
That is correct.
that big, and you've already covered the cost of that asset, the cost of that retrofit that you're doing is really pennies compared to if you have to buy a new transformer. So that just benefits everybody. There is a change coming though, and that change is when most utilities go to the 50 state utility commissions, right? They get rate increases based on asset purchases. You're preserving an asset, and here's what's more and more, I think there's 17 states now where the Public Utilities Commission is actually basing rate increases on operational dollars. Yours would be operational, repair, maintenance type dollars that they're saying, oh, yeah, we want you to do that, and we'll give you a rate increase if you spend more money doing that, not just buying assets. So you got both things moving in your favor in terms of the dollars go. There's something that is happening at a TechCon conference recently. I was moderating a panel on physical security. And there was somebody there from SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal, somebody from Idaho Public Power, and somebody from PG&E. And the three experts from that each did about a 15-minute presentation on their physical security issues. All three of them had incidents of, it wasn't terrorism, we still can't figure out what it all was, but guess what people were shooting at? They were shooting at radiators and bushings.
Correct.
Guys with rifles up in the hills.
Correct.
Now, and the stories were crazy. One gentleman in the Idaho thing, Power, was coming down the Snake River, and as he was driving down on a motorcycle, they could see him on video, and he'd stop at one substation, it was all hydro, shoot at the radiators, drive to the next one, shoot at those, drive to the third one. The problem was it was a one-way road.
Right.
He didn't know it, so he's having to drive back. Well, they finally caught him up here. He goes on trial in May, and I hope they throw the book at him because fortunately that caused damage, but guess what it damaged? The radiator, right? And that Duke Power, 7 North Carolina, somebody coming in, what did they shoot? The radiators. What happens when they shoot them? Leaks. Transformer oil level comes down. It's a major problem. And I know you all of your innovation, which I would have said, there's nothing you can do about that, but you've done something about that.
We have. We introduced our TranTech product, and what we've seen over time, of course, you mentioned the Duke incident in Moore County. TranTech was the one that responded to that call at 1:30 in the morning of, oh, can you help us? Also another incident with Energy United about 40 miles from that location, occurred some days later. We've seen more and more of these. In fact, we see more of these than actually what is reported, and they're considered human incidents. Through the DOE reporting, but we see incidents that does not show up on those. So we will replace radiators from all over the country that may not have been reported as, a ballistic event or a human event that I'd say once a month.
Really?
So it's a lot more frequent. A lot of times, a utility or a co-op might go out and patch it, with some epoxy or something. But we replace a lot of radiators that have been shot with, rifles or shotguns. Hey, we even seen the We even seen one time where a teenager had consistently shot a radiator with a slingshot with steel balls. So we introduced our TranTech product, and it goes all the way up to level 8 protection, and it basically is built into our radiator. So if you look at the large cross section of radiators on a transformer, it appears like it's just a radiator plate.
Yeah.
But what it is a woven fiberglass of level 8 protection that will take 5 shots from an AK-47 in a small area and just absorb it with no spalling. There was a need for that. Unfortunately, there is a need for that. It was a product that is an add-on to our current product, and it allows us to be able to service a customer's need, when they call us and say, is there something you can do or provide? Well, of course we can.
Yeah.
And that was introduced about the same time as our mobile auxiliary cooling unit. For an event, as we mentioned, the Duke Moore County incident, for an event such as that, this is a product that can be pulled into the field and replace the cooling for that transformer completely on a temporary or a long-term basis.
Yeah.
And yes, it can also be provided with ballistic protection as well, even on this mobile unit. So these are things that we've seen a need for. Unfortunately, that's just where we are right now. More and more people. In fact, we had units just installed in Florida a few days back with ballistic protection on them. The other good thing is about the TranTech product is it is rated for 1 hour of direct fire. So we see a lot of incidents where you'll have sister transformers in a substation. One will catch on fire, but we're replacing the radiators on the sister unit because they've taken on so much heat that it's compromised the thin material. Well, the TranTech product basically is a firewall for that.
Okay.
So they don't take on that heat, from a fire from a transformer maybe in the same substation. So that's another benefit of that product.
Two things about TranTech. It's almost like your Intel inside. I mean, a lot of people don't know that TranTech is as big and strong in the market as you are. And so you're like Intel until they started telling people Intel inside. And then finally, I think that was Dell Manufacturing that finally put that little sticker on there.
Correct.
Now Intel is a bigger brand than Dell, but that's kind of what you're doing. Two things that you bring up. One of them is you mentioned the engineering. You actually do the engineering to make sure that you can meet the spec. That means you have to make a commitment to having a team of engineers that can look at a lot of different transformers, a lot of different applications, and be able to come back and say, okay, hey, this transformer, this application works. How do you maintain that group of? Because they're your innovation. They're the people that see the problems out there that say, hey, if we could, then we should. Talk a little bit about that, your engineering expertise.
Well, it's funny. We talk about this quite a bit, and we say that at TranTech we have our pragmatic engineers and we have our mad scientists. Because sometimes you have to have the mad scientists on site to really see something different than everybody else does. Most of our engineers in our engineering group have a tenure of about 17 years with us.
Okay.
The average employee at TranTech has a 19-year tenure.
Okay.
Says, we've been around over 90 years in this industry. As far as our engineers, being able to allow them to be creative in producing new products or designing new things for the industry, such as our new tank line that we've introduced. We're now building transformer tanks.
Really?
Oh yeah, we're building transformer tanks. Correct.
TranTech. I like that name.
Yeah, right now we're in the 300 kVA range tanks. We'll be into network transformer tanks here pretty soon.
Okay.
Another need in the industry, to allow our engineers to work on these projects and say, you know what, let's just see what you come up with. I think that means a lot this day and time, rather than just handing an assignment over and say, I need this. We like to explore just how creative they can be, and you would be amazed at, how much that builds the confidence of our engineers to be able to go out in the field and interact with our customers. There are so many experts in our industry that have been around for many, many years, and we try to catch those before they retire, but just working in the field with some of the smartest people in the industry, Doble is a good example.
Yeah.
We work with Doble. They do a lot of independent testing for us, but we see them out in the field, and we, have the opportunity to gain knowledge from them on what they're seeing with the transformer. As we do know in our side of the business, on the cooling side, if you don't understand the transformer, Alan, you don't have a shot at redesigning a cooling system. You need to understand what's going on with that transformer, how it works, everything about the design, whether it's a baffled design, from the cooling system in, or whether it's directed flow. So all of these things come into play when you're redesigning a cooling system. You need to understand these things. Pressures that they're operating at and things of that nature. So it's really a lot for somebody, to take on and understand, becoming a new engineer at TranTech. It is exciting, and I think that's kind of how we hold our engineers on site and within our company, and we really don't have anybody that goes anywhere.
Yeah. You know what that leads to? It's job satisfaction.
It is.
When people are satisfied and love what they do, number one of the, other than pay benefits, job security, that's always important, but one of the number one reasons for why people have high job satisfaction is I feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. I feel like I matter, and engineers love that. As an engineer, I'll tell you, that's why we don't leave, even sometimes if somebody offers us a nickel more. It's like, no, I love what I do. Yeah. Does fluid play any role? Because you mentioned all the things about a transformer. Does a lot, because there's about a 1 to 1.5% increase every year of fluids using esters, natural and synthetic esters. So that part of the industry is growing. Does that change because there's also a lot of retrofits with FR3 and other fluids, Midal. Does that change the cooling engineering at all, or not?
It really does not. With our product, it has less than 1% changing from one to the other. What we do is we communicate with most all of the suppliers of those fluids, because what we like to do is we like to test their fluids against our product for things such as paint surface tension, because as you know, all radiators are internally painted and externally painted as well. We like to do the DGA testing on those against our product, because we want to make sure that our coatings are compatible to whatever transformer oil is being used. So we have to keep an eye on what's new out there on the market on that end as well, so we can do that testing.
Because even on the mineral oil side, they keep making things different, additives.
That
and
is
things
correct.
Like that.
So we need to make sure that everything stays compatible as things are released, new products are released, we'll take those samples. And a good example, there was a change last year where we had to go through substantial testing with Doble from transformer simulation and what it might see during like an overexcitation testing model. And we need to make sure that our coatings basically don't come off, or we get what they call surface tension of the paint starts changing, over time. So it's a constant cycle to keep up with everybody with all the new innovations and fluids. We try to stay on top of it, and we've had to change some of our coating specifications to keep up with that, and it's really actually good for us when we see changes out there. It keeps us testing our product, making sure that our customer is getting exactly, both what the spec calls for and what we want to give them as well as far as quality.
So last question, you brought it up, now I'm going to bring it back up. The average, and you said the engineers were about 17 years and the whole company was about 19 years. As you grow, as you add new products and as you add new services and as you supply an industry that your product, your service is more in demand now than ever, I assume, how do you keep the labor, the people that make it? Because TranTech is known for quality. I mean, that's one of the reasons people use you. And quality depends on two things. The design, you design quality in. I'm a big design for reliability, design it in. And then there is a human error that you have to allow for or eliminate. And if you allow for it, you eliminate it, which means you don't allow for it. But how do you keep that staff in? Because they're retiring too. And we don't have a lot of people coming into the trades anymore, whether that's skilled trades or unskilled trades. What's the philosophy that you use as a company to attract and retain?
Well, actually, what we do is we invest in our regional programs, such as, we do a lot of fabrication and welding. We give support through our high schools and our local technical colleges, and that's where we're recruiting our new candidates from. We also have a co-op program where we have people that are in high school or college that are working for us, and we have a very high success rate of those people coming on board with us. And that's something that we have found has paid off for us for many years. Along with donating technology to those schools, we actually donate equipment to them that is very similar or exact to what we use in our facility, so they're trained when they come in. And that's not just on the fabrication side, our welders and our testers. We want that from a quality standpoint also. So we invest in training for those people. And the way that we maintain the people is if you learn something in our company, it's worth something to us. So you will be compensated for everything you learn. You'll be compensated for what you learn because it's valuable to you, it's valuable to the company.
Creates a lot of cross-training capability too.
It's a lot of cross-training, an entire cross-training matrix that is just a tool within what we call the TranTech operating system. And it's our home. Our foundation starts with 5S and our Jidoka systems, and we just build the house from that foundation. And within that house is our cross-training matrix. So it's an entire system, and we live by that system.
So we're going to do, at some point, we're going to do an issue, maybe the whole issue or part of the issue is going to be talking about generations, the people that are leaving, and whether that's engineering or whether that's at the skills or unskilled trade. I want to do a story about that. We're going to do something in an issue and talk about generations. That's kind of the topic of it. So it'll be engineers, but I really want to talk about what people are doing at the skilled and unskilled trades level and exactly what you're talking about. So we're going to do that with you. I want to have pictures of the co-op programs and maybe some interviews with some of the people that are part of that. And because getting and retaining high quality people is the secret to whether you produce a quality product for the marketplace or not. And more companies, I really appreciate the fact in the US, more and more companies are moving that way. They're, in the old days it was, we can get enough labor. Now they're saying it's more of like almost a German process. We need to recruit them, we need to train them, and we need to retain them.
There's value in that.
Recruit, train, and retain. But anyway, I want to do that.
And we, would really like to be a part of that because, my director of materials has been with us 53 years.
Oh my gosh.
53 years.
Yeah.
And we have several
when he
people.
Was 10?
He started when the plant was moved from Michigan to South Carolina when it was owned by the Olds family, famous for the Oldsmobile.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I did not know that.
And we still made some truck plates. They were the cooling plates that went in milk trucks, even back then. So he's been around since 1970. And we have a lot of 40-year plus employees, down to people that, we just hired maybe last week, that come out of technical school. So we would really appreciate being a part of that.
I'd love it so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Al.
Appreciate it.